1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 now in the spoken word. You are now in the spoken word. You are now in the spoken word. Yeah, you are now in the spoken word. 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 One now in the spoken word. You are now in the spoken word. One now in the spoken word. Yeah, you are now in the spoken word. One now in the spoken word. You are now in the spoken word. One now in the spoken word. You are now in the spoken word. Voices in my head, I should start a choir. Stories in my head, you should start a fire. All these voices in my head, I could start a choir. All these stories in Welcome to the Spoken Word with Edward. I am your host, your humble hotel, your humble hermit, your humble human, your humble human. Welcome back to the show. This is the Spoken Word with Edward, episode 2, talking about homekeeping on this episode. So I just want to say welcome back. I always advertise my show as the mix of the content and the conversation, right? So I want to say thank you to all my listeners. This is so important who listened to my last episode. The numbers show that we picked up where we left off, which is crazy. It's fucking crazy. I took so much time off in between the show. I took hella time off. And here it is. You guys there showed up. And so what we got to do is call it word of mouth for a reason. People got to be told about their show. They got to be told how to think, got to be told what they missing out. So just tell people about my show. I'm going to make it easier for you. I'm going to get you some materials that make it easier to post. But just, it's coming, man. Subscribe to the show. Support the show. There's new ways I want people to interact with the show. So please take every chance you get to just consume and just be a part of this. Cause I'm excited. But the last episode, I gave you what I call the showcase, right? I gave you the content. I said, boom. I was in hibernation, smelled the roses. Said, you know what? I'm going to hit y'all. Boom. Original poetry. Pow. Spoken word, comedy. Boom. Original music. And that's my shit. But now let's get into what I call the conversation. Every good podcast, man, it's about conversations. This and that. This is like a mix of Palace of Thought, Spoken Word season 1, and just some new shit. I'm just on a new, refined, just new. I feel great lately. And so yeah, if you haven't seen or listened to that, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, please stop what you're doing. Listen to that show. If you like conversational podcasts, then of course listen. But that right there is my little portfolio. I'm proud of what I put in that first episode. Whether it was the spoken word, whether it was the comedy open mic, whether it was the freestyle, the lyrics. I'm proud of what I did. That I have visual components to that. You can find that shit on Instagram. Also check out my website at Word of Mouth. There's so many ways to engage and get the behind the scenes stories on everything and all that jazz. So you can do that at wordofmouth.com. But last week and this week it continues. We're talking about home. Home. What does home mean to you? So we're going to talk about a couple of things in the conversation. Home is going to be the overlying thing, umbrella, I guess this and that. But the conversation, you can expect that I talk about shit. I talk, all right? You don't give yourself a name like a word of mouth if you don't got a mouthpiece to back it up. You know what I'm saying? I know how to run that mouth. But what you can expect, right? I'm going to give you a little commentary on some current events. Just one little thing, say my piece, and I'm going to move on because we got to get to the message. And the message is where I'd rather spend more of my time. The message is always, and I repeat always, either about male betterment and creative self-fulfillment. If you listening to this show and I'm preaching about something, if it's not just commentary or me just goofing off, you probably know I'm talking about male betterment and creative self-fulfillment. And what I love about the word betterment is that you can't spell it without the words better men. And that's crazy to me. I just now came up with that marketing. Damn, become a better man. Just become a better man. And so I'm trying to give you wisdoms, insights, tips, anecdotes, how to become a better man, how to create your own fate. And if you listen to season 1, you know what I'm talking about. You know that I be on this soapbox, talking my shit. But if you haven't, it's okay. We about to ramp it up. So this week, we gonna get into the current events, but we also gonna get into, how can we become better practitioners of homekeeping? And this is a phenomenon. I put it through the lens of how we need to do better as men. It's crazy. My last show, I used to put this in the same show. Then I would do Create Your Fate in the same show. and then I would do skits and comedy in the same show, and then I would do like original like music or poetry in the same show. Like, man, I was doing the most. I learned from it, but like now, I'm stronger because I know how to withhold stuff. But let's talk about the current events. By the time you'll hear this show, I'm just gonna make a prediction that the world gonna go ahead, the whole country gonna be in state of emergency. Everyone will be working from home if possible. I think, right now I know for a fact people are being sent home from schools. This might be your last day on your campus. My heart's with you right now because the coronavirus has just been declared a pandemic, man. This thing is crazy. Like, I remember like December, the headlines popping up, and January, shit's popping up. It's bad. They suppressing stuff. But everything felt like, oh man, China, everything on something's not going on in China. Like, oh man, please feel for the people of China. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's in your back door. It's literally in Kendall Square, Boston. It's like, oh shit. And so I want to just like, I think about this shit, like first on a political level, how are we the wealthiest nation? Look at me. How are we the wealthiest nation on the planet? And we just unprepared. Oh, because we've been making cuts. That's how you do good business. You cut money, cut. Well, first thing we cut, apparently, this is why you got to vote. Because you're not voting, you're not just voting for political views and like this and that. You're voting for the money. We cut $30 million to our complex crisis fund. Imagine that. Someone in government thought it'd be a good idea to have a savings account for what they consider a complex crisis. It's like we have our, rainy day. They have their complex crisis fund. And that would be nice to have a little $30 million right now for a complex crisis when they're scraping, scrambling to get a $2.5 trillion or billion dollar bill passed when we already had some money in the line. But nope, ain't nothing to cut that shit off because, hey, this ain't complex, nor is it a crisis. The fuck? Then we cut the CDC. Who, if anyone needed a raise, it's probably the CDC after this shit. Cut their whole budget by 9%. And the majority, like 80% of what was cut, happened to be any efforts to prevent disease outbreak. What? That's like, saying like, okay, you got to cut, you got to lose your insurance, this and that. You got to make, times are getting tough. You got to cut back some of your costs. You might just make, a lot of people do make the decision. It's like, you know what? I'm just not going to put insurance on my car. I'm not going to put insurance on nothing. And they always had insurance their whole life. And the moment they take that thing off, that 18-wheeler comes knocking through. But not even like that. But then it's like a specific thing they can't pair. It's like not only did they used to have full coverage, but now they just got liability. And someone fucks up they shit and they can't recover no cash for it. Now they got to scrap their own car. Like that's the level of irony we dealing with. But I'm interested on the cultural level. It's just like, okay, diseases happen, like historical level, this happens. Like diseases happen 1918, Spanish flu, 1958. Seems like every 50 years, it's time for that new thing. Like God come through and it's like, wow, like shit, we need to equalize some stuff. Well, it's scary because it's unknown. Anything unknown, as we know, which is ironic in itself, is scary. If you don't know what to expect, you don't know what you don't know. And so you leave your imagination. And when your imagination starts to conflict with the science or if it merges with the science, we fill in the gaps of what we don't know with our worst fears and imagination. So what we do know is that as of now, it's like a 4% rate of mortality, which is crazy. And like, if you ask an epidemic, we don't know about diseases and shit. Cause like, but epidemiologists, they'll say anything like around 2%. That's fucking nuts. Like 2% mortality rate, like the flu, while it does kill more people than the coronavirus has killed, it's just because the flu is just so much larger. It's been here. But even that has a 0.5%, mortality rate. And we see how we respect the flu. But what we're finding is it's fucking up people with compromised immune systems, with diseases, with, failing health, and people of old age. I mean, that's just how it is. So just because you young and you a young bull or whatever, you feel like you ain't about to be affected by this. Okay, just because you not gonna die don't mean you go around killing other people, right? You could be carrying this shit and then you could be passing it to people who can't handle that. So don't make that decision for them. Your right to swing as hard as you want is yours until you reach someone else's face. Like you can't just be throwing reckless like that. And then on, the systematic level, I think the healthcare industry is fucked. They're not prepared. I know people working in the healthcare industry, they've been stressing since January because they knew that they don't have the hospital beds for this shit. They know that supply and demand is going to dictate who gets service and who is not able to get, service. Like, and when I'm talking about this, it's not just like on the the ethical level. I mean, we're just practically speaking in our current system, it is impossible for us to scale up our infrastructure for for healthcare. Like
let's imagine like there's 30 parking lots in the CVS. You go to a CVS, you never had trouble finding parking. It may not be the best parking spot, but you always able to go. And so there's maybe no more than 25 people in the CVS max. Never more than that. It's never that popping. And yet they still do what? 500 people in business a day. How is that possible? Well, duh, because not everyone goes to CVS at the same time, right? Now, people would go to CVS all the time if CVS decided to put all their shit for $1, or if all that shit was free. If CVS ran a sale, it was like, hey, you know what? That thing you couldn't afford, now it's very affordable. It's 50 cents. What was $8, that medicine that was, $35. We're selling that medicine for $2. I bet you CVS would be popping. And CVS would then be so popping, they would have to find ways to have more parking spaces for people to come. Well, we're kind of seeing this in the healthcare industry. First off, 89 million people are uninsured. So that's damn near close to a quarter and a third of the American population uninsured. So they just not going to CVS, right? In this metaphor, they're not even going. So you don't need to build parking spots because most of them ain't going to show up until it's too late. On top of that, CVS costs too much. So people are going to be deterred from going all at once anyways because the shit costs too much. But what happens if everybody has to go to CVS? If CVS is the only place with the medicine? Who gives a damn? CVS only got 30 parking spots. That bitch is going to be packed 500 people within minutes. And that's what we see in the healthcare system, right? We're seeing that because hospitals, because what we fail to understand, hospitals are a business, right? It's a business model. Like they're not going to build.
I found a few hospitals near you.
Hey, quit listening, Google. God damn it. That's the shit, man. Fuck the internet. You heard that. Quit listening. All that shit. So you like, there's no emergency rooms. They're not going to build 50 more hospital beds if there's no one in there to get billed for that shit, because hospital beds, lights are not free. This is a business model. And so even though we need hospital beds because it's, a pandemic is going to affect hella people on top of the already sick population, what we going to do? We're going to have to make some tough decisions. And so that's just what's crazy. And then we see how we're making it worse because people without insurance, if they don't have doctors, they only go to the emergency room when shit gets bad. So now the express lane, which was once, reserved for people in emergencies, now that's just the de facto loophole to get people to own that shit. Plus, if you can't quit your job, if you can't go to work, you can't get paid. If you can't go to work, you might lose your job. If you lose your job, you might lose your benefits if you're lucky enough to have them. Remember, 89 million people are insured. So whenever they say, oh, this is the lowest unemployment rates ever, okay, that's cool, but are they coming with benefits? Probably not. Because that many people wouldn't be fucking uninsured. Then that's giving shit like that. And the last thing on this, just consumer culture makes it all worse because now it's up to your dollar if you get to survive, right? When you panic, you don't think, so you lose your ration. And so now you're overreacting. And now you see people buying gallons of hand sanitizer. More importantly, they're buying surgical masks, right? And here's the thing we don't understand. Most of these masks are produced in China. So that's not happening anymore because, I don't know, I think they might need them themselves. And plus, trade is being slowed to an all-time slow right now. So we're not only dealing with that, we have our supply of, masks that we make here. Cool, just make some more. Well, we have what we have because we need materials from China. We're not getting those anytime soon. But we might have enough to get through for a little bit. But not if everybody's trying to buy by the boxes and crate loads these freaking masks. And the people who need them most are the healthcare workers. And, you see healthcare workers, they wash their hands up to the wrist every day. But like, if it gets to a point it's a shortage, they might be restricted to one mask a day. Think about that. Your healthcare worker might be working on the same mask every day. And people who are triple sanitizing their hands and shit when they ain't never been 30 feet of someone who has the virus. Meanwhile, healthcare workers are literally seeing hospitals full of people with the virus. And they're the ones who need it most. And so because we have this panic and we have this consumer power, we're literally fucking up the healthcare system as it is. It's so fucked. I mean, it's just comical at this point that like how unprepared like a virus can just come through out of nowhere and just, change the whole game. And that's the point for me. The point, right? It's just ironic that in an election season, there's a disease out there that targets old people who are less likely to vote, for a progressive candidate, a crisis that is going to show the flaws of the current healthcare system, a crisis that doesn't kill the kids or the youth for some reason, because kids are always exposed to new germs and shit every day. And for some reason, it hasn't really seen those stories affecting Black people. Like COVID-19, damn it, this motherfucker needs to go COVID-20, 2020 for president. Like COVID 2020 is really out here winning the elections. Like put that motherfucker on the ballot. We got to choose between these two candidates. I'd shit COVID. I want to see you on the debate stage. I digress. Karma, send that bullshit karma back. I'm just joking. It's just a podcast. Because I get instant karma, y'all. So like, before you know it, I'm gonna have it shit. My cat gonna have the shit. My plant gonna get it. So, So all I'm gonna tell you guys is just take some soap, antibacterial, wet your hands, keep the soap on your hands for 20 seconds, go between the knuckles. You want to swim through that motherfucker, just wash your hands. And if you aren't like an average person, if you are a president of a nation, if you are I don't know, if you're a wealthy CEO, if you're a president of a nation, if you are a leader of people that you have under your power, you need to go ahead, keep washing your hands and hope that the stains of your lack of morality, your lack of principle, your lack of backbone doesn't cost millions and millions of lives because you decided that your money, your power, your influence supersedes the needs of the greater person. So wash your hands until them motherfuckers turn pale, till they see through, because you, if anyone is liable, is the people who could have prevented this in the first place. But wash your hands and, attract good karma. That has been your current events for this episode. Now, after this break, we're going to get into the conversation, the message, homekeeping. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the spoken word. Let's talk about a little housekeeping, right? Homekeeping, as I say. So what we got here is, it's crazy. Like right now, we in a moment of panic. Everyone's so focused on hygiene. I mean, I have allergies, and like if I sound congested or my nose, my boss is, Edward, are you sick? Are you sick, Edward? Edward, you okay? Are you sick? It's like, damn, girl, it's just a little New England pollen, like shit. Now I got the scarlet letter. I mean, like, treat me, like, don't do me like that. But it just reminded me of this time I had a cough when I was living in Lambeth, which was like a dormitory apartment for college. And, saying, like, 19-year-old men living together. Ooh, yeah, there ain't no housekeeping going on in there. We're going to get into that, so hang tight. But, for some reason, what we didn't have, we may not have had cleaning supplies, but we had medicine. Like, we had Tylenols, we had aspirins, we had neosporins, we had cannabis, cannabi, mucinexes. So, one day I woke up, I'm heading my 11 a.m., and I have, like, this little tickle in my throat. Like, I repeat, a tickle in my throat. And then my roommate, Javante, who's, one of the smartest men you'll ever run into, very opinionated, but he's usually right about shit. And, you really got to challenge that motherfucker because, he be making you feel that type of shit all the time. But he's still, he's definitely my bro. And he's from St. Louis. That's why I said all that shit. And so he got this crazy accent. He's like, man, you all right, Ed? I don't know, that ain't a good accent. Ed, you all right? I'm like, yeah, Javante, I just got a little tickle, a little cough or something. Oh, I got something for that. So he hands me some cough syrup, no measuring cup. He's like, come on, man, we don't measure. Look, I got we don't need to measure. I like a little extra jugs, in the system, make you feel a little, good measure. I'm like, all right, bet. Look, throw it back 2 gulps. And it's crazy when you think the irony of like sanitation, of like drinking from the same cold medicine bottle, because then that's how diseases are transmitted. But we ain't gonna talk about that. So boom, I get to class and turns out I'm in a group project. I don't even know how the hell, to this day, every time I tell this story, I still don't understand how I was in the group project. Like, was I just not paying attention at all that last day? Because apparently I was in a group. I had a role. I had something to say. I was supposed to be presenting. And like the people talking to me and like, I'm trying to come up like, yo, like I'm in a group project. I'm like, really? I said, interesting. I was like, okay, what are we talking about? What's the topic? And then people's voices get like really, really deep and slow. Then it was like DJ Screw, ha. Then my vision went purple. And then it was like slow motion. And then I said, holy shit, I'm on that lean. Goddamn, I'm on that lean. So I don't know what the fuck people around me talking about, but they shit purple. And so like, to me, whenever I feel something, I don't know if this is just a black community thing, but it's just like, I got to go boo-boo. And like, I don't know, because I used to into my little brother, oh, what's wrong with you, man? My stomach hurt. Oh, you know, I got a fever. I'm headache, this and that. Did you boo-boo? Like, it's like, damn, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if you ain't try to boo-boo, you're not being serious. Like, you know, so if you ever feel some type of discomfort, try to boo-boo. Because apparently that'll go ahead and that's the test. That's the audit. If you pass the boo-boo audit, then you really something wrong with you, this and that. And so I go out to class. I expunge the poison out my system. And I go to the handicap stall. I need the rails. Like I said, man, this got to get out of here. Then get out. About time I get out, class is dismissed. And, you know what I'm saying? And like, I got to go in and grab my bags. And I go straight home. Because, you know what I'm saying? I thought, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, Javante, I thought we were on the same team. I thought, you know, you my homie. But like, it seemed like there's someone in the royal court trying to take me out. Because there's some real poison right here. Like, are you conspiring against me? So I'm reading the label. Extreme cough and severe fever, double strength, nighttime medicine. I had none of those. Like, there's 4 descriptions that I disagree with. Severe, extreme cough, a tickle, severe fever. Who the fuck said anything about a fever? Like, I never said anything about a fever. Double strength, because all I needed was the simple cough. Nighttime medicine. Javante, it's 11 a.m. I got 2 more classes today. I have a group presentation I don't even know about. And you about to have me on the syrup, the double serving on the double strength syrup. And so I was so mad, man. I was so hot. I was like, man, this man, like, I got to be more, you know, proactive in my life. But you know what? You know what though? You know what's crazy? That I ain't coughed once. I ain't coughed once that whole week, damn near. Like, all that shit, all that thing I went through, like, I ain't feel a tickle. I ain't feel nothing. Like, I really survived that shit. So I guess what don't kill you make you stronger, or make good content. So y'all could thank Javante for that joint. But let's get into the message, right? The message of today is, how do we become a better man via the practice, the ritual of homekeeping? Stay tuned. We're going to get into it. Locked here at The Spoken Word with Edward. Welcome to the Better Man Journal. Zoom in on me. Welcome to the Better Man Journal. You're probably asking, what is this? Well, this is my messaging related to how men can do their part to make the world better. Let's be honest, the whole brand as a whole is taking a hit. Women, they hate men. That's bad for business. That's bad for marriage. That's bad for the continuity of life. I mean, damn, we got to keep this species going. Like, we got to learn how to, you know, get shit figured out. And the worst, they have good reason to. Like, I was looking up into the law library, the American Law and Legal Information. It's like a free online encyclopedia. And I was looking at some statistics. Look at this shit. Since the 1960s in the United States, the extent of female arrests have generally been less than 15% for homicide and less than 10% for serious property crimes. And it's crazy that I see them framed like that. So what, it's like almost protecting us from the truth, because translation, that means men are responsible for 85% of murders and upwards 90 or more percent of serious property crime or aggravated assault. So it's just like, damn, like, y'all don't think that's a little bit unfair? Like, it's crazy. Like, can we just call it what it is? Like, shit, like, we're the problem, like, when it comes to this and that. But I also know that, you know, whatever, like, that can't be the bar. And I know you listening right now is like, look, I've never killed anybody. And good. I don't need that type of press. Like, I don't need that listen that bad where I got killers listening to my shit. Like, hey, man, I killed some folk, but man, you snapped on that episode, bro. Get home safely. Like, oh, I'm like, quit listening to my shit. Matter of fact, this is the end of the spoken word. I'll never say a word again. But that can't be the bar, right? So you listen to that. But just because you're not a killer, just because you ain't hitting up licks and shit, that's not the bar. Like, we can't just be stuck. That can't be the qualifying threshold. So no, I'm on a mission to elevate myself and via elevate other men along the journey to accept the challenge to become better men in every aspect, to improve our emotional intelligence, to fight against, you know, misogyny, homophobia, to be better practitioners of inclusion. And so this week, in line with the theme, home, I want to talk about a phenomena I call homekeeping. How can we be better homekeepers? Now, homekeeping is my definition, my word, so I get to decide the rules of it. But I think it can be best defined partly by its apposition. Housekeeping, right? Housekeeping is what? Taking care of the house, taking care of your chores, taking care, it's the reason that like when you sleeping on a Saturday morning and you hear your mom on the phone inviting her family and shit to come over, your family to come over, you're going to be getting up, having to do these dishes, taking care of the house. It's the shit that you don't want to do, but it's taking care of the things, keyword things that matter. And so you learn this shit, and I was raised to take care of the things, to do your housekeeping. But like I said, alluded to earlier, I told y'all, like, when I was living in an apartment with 3 other men, 19, 20-year-old dudes, 20, I mean, hell, even shit, all college, I don't know why I'm trying to hedge my bets. We wasn't living right. I mean, look, man, I didn't do my dishes immediately after use. Like, I like to eat my food when it's hot. And then if you keep the trash lid closed at a certain angle, you could just throw the food in there. If you do it quick enough, you won't smell the rotten garbage. And then laundry. Laundry, like, why do laundry? You can just steal clean socks from Tyler, who stole those clean socks from Jesse, and he probably stole those from me. So, and besides, like, mom would invite people over. We're not inviting people over. And if someone's coming, what I'm saying, they gonna have to give us like notice before they show up and just who at the door? A party? 80? Down the street? Oh, hell no. Man.
But that's real life, though. That's a true story. Like,
we in the middle of a turn up, dreams and nightmares, getting the dishwater going. Like, that's one of the lowest moments of my collegiate career as a event organizer, as someone who was raised right. Like, that right there, we just wasn't living right. Like, that just right there, that's no excuse for me. I got suds and shit, trying to turn up and shit, got soap water flying and shit, bro. Like, come on, man. I never put myself or my kids in that situation again. We was raised better than that. But that's just basic housekeeping, right? This episode ain't called, housekeeping. Like, everyone should know to clean your hands, to do your chores, to keep a clean, hygienic, sanitary environment. And it's also ain't exclusive to men. I've lived with, some women, and I know that this, this, you don't need an episode for this. That's just, facts. Like, go ahead, do that. But I'm talking about homekeeping, right? So if housekeeping is what? Taking care of the things that matter, homekeeping, is taking care of the people that matter. People that matter, not who the world suggests matter or, saying who you think, matters. It's about these two groups of people that matter. It's either your family and your friends. And the decision's even easier because you don't even get to control who your blood is. So even if you're not staying in touch or if you're not looking out for someone, there's really no getting rid of family. Like, there's no getting rid of it. Blood is blood. These are the laws of the bloodlines and shit. So that, like, you can fall out or, like, you don't really got to maintain it as much, which isn't healthy. I'm not saying that at all. But, like, your family is obligated. If you have come up with some family values, like, they obligated to be there for you. And they going to be there maintained regardless, as soil is going to be in the ground and shit. But friends ain't the same. First off, you get to choose your friends. You get to control who's allowed in and who's allowed out. Either they choose you or you choose them. But it's also those things that, like, if you don't maintain those friendships, there's no guarantee you're going to stay close. You're going to no guarantee y'all don't fall out. I mean, you become strangers, estranged. And the reason I'm bringing this shit up is not because of hurt feelings or this and that, but because for, a demographic of men, but men in general, being lonely and not having friendship circles is a health crisis. And that's costly. You see a lot of shit come back to the health crisis. So newsflash, men could be pretty terrible at friendships. Now, I don't got to explain it. I'm going to let the science talk for a little bit. So let's think about the transition from boyhood to manhood, right? It includes a shift in friendship dynamics, right? You understand that? Like, you don't do imaginary friends once you hit a certain threshold. Like, when you talk about certain things, like, shit changes as life changes. But we look in a society, when you're a boy, you're okay to be dependent. You're young. You depend on, your family, your mothers. You're open. You're protected. But one of the giant branding, the part of the brand, the male brand, is that, a strong man is an independent leader of thought, right? He's independent. But independence is good, right? No one's going, shit, we should all be independent, free, creative thinkers. But in reality, independence is often in the guise, in the true, is just a cover for people living in isolation, right? Men, saying people are lonely out here. And so if you look at so you could do a study, you could talk to a boy when they're like 14 years old and they'll report having close friendships with their bros. They'll talk to them about anything, about their emotions, telling all their secrets, telling too much. Like, I'm thinking about shit I was telling everybody as a kid. I was like, damn, I was really just open out here, just boom, busting all that information out. But you can interview that same boy like 4 years later when they turn 18 and the dynamics change from like, oh, I talk about everything. It's like, oh yeah, we do everything together. Yeah, we hang out. we do this and that. But what they'll be sure to correct you on is that they're not nearly as open. That discourse isn't nearly as open as it was. They don't talk about the haunts of daily life, the pain, the secrets, the shit they're going through. And this is of note disproportionately, affects white demographics, like especially like white single men more. But I know this to be true from my personal experience as well, so I can't speak on all of that, but I know what the facts say. And so what we're seeing is a dynamic where friendships were kind of like summer camp when you're a boy, independent, you got counselors, you got meals, you have community. So now like some Bear Grylls survival shit, right? Then becoming a man is kind of being able to prove you can survive on your own. So, why the shift? Well, yeah, society, patriarchy, that's sure. But the fact is that there's a preference in communication styles in men that is overly represented in comparison to like women friendship dynamics. So psychologists, they explain this thing, the proximity effect. And you know this to be true. Like you're more likely to be friends with people you are around, whether that's, be around because of school, because of work, because you live in dorms, neighborhoods, because, then those you'll never interact with. It's the same reason you're more likely to be, at odds, or you might more likely to be victim of crime with someone who lives around you versus not, just because of simple physics. Like you can't interact with someone you can't interact with. But male dynamics, when you look at it, they prefer what they like to call shoulder to shoulder friendships. And you know this to be true, where like we talk not just to talk. When you become in like that adulthood stage, like we're not just hitting each other up just to like be in each other's heads, but we also like linking up and shit. So it's like, let's set up a smoke session. Let's go ahead and do some shit. What you doing this weekend? What you doing? What you doing? Come out. It's like that type of dynamics and shit like that. Now, that's not to say that, of course, like every group of person, they set up dates, everyone hang out. That's not the thing. But what I'm talking about, female dynamics that they do significantly better is that their friendships are also more likely rooted in conversation, right? Disclosure, talking about what they are feeling and shit. And so it's kind of like, so like what I'm trying to explain right there, that little nuance is that men, we hitting each other up to schedule shit to do stuff. And when we're together, if you homies and you smoking or whatever, like you gonna say how you feel, like you gonna have those real conversations. So they do happen, but they only happen when basically person to person, y'all link up. There is no real, like once it gets to like text messages or phone calls or FaceTimes, women FaceTime they friends more than men FaceTime they bros. That's just facts. And when you FaceTime, you get to have conversation. You get to talk about that shit. And so as you grow older, naturally, friends move on to college. They get careers. And so now you're no longer shoulder to shoulder. And so only one of these dynamics is better suited for that shift. And so the bottom line is we talk to set up to do shit, right? We talk to do shit versus just talking shit. We talk shit when we do shit, but we got to just call each other just to talk our shit. Like, that's something that, like, we're just not doing. We just prefer not to do it, just, overall from these couple studies we look at. So when you think about it, not being able to talk shit to someone or, like, talk about what's going on leads to loneliness. Not independence, but loneliness. And it's lethal, especially when you talk about white men. So we're talking about the health effects that science is showing that being lonely fucks up your mental health, fucks up your physical health, fucks up your immune system. It all begins to decline. Your stress increases. You're more prone to depression. Your memory, your recall begins to, fail you. And, saying the science will be exact. And science is about being careful and being peer reviewed. So they won't say what I believe it is because they need that shit to be confirmed, and repeatable. But we know for a fact that, like, our brains aren't just, like, running out of storage. Like, our brains are massive. Like, they're not running out of storage, but there's nothing worth storing without laughter. Like, no one's going to remember times they're alone. You ever had someone ask you, like, oh, man, what'd you do yesterday? And you ever had to think, like, damn, what did I do yesterday? Right? If you had a pop-in weekend with your friends, or if you had bomb conversations, you could probably hit them real quick. Yeah, man, me and my friends, we went to the jungle, hit an open mic. Then we did something at the, me and my girl went here, but me and my bros did this, and that. And then we talked, and I heard some bad news about his family member, so I consoled him. But if you just spend your time by yourself, and I'm not talking alone, but if you're lonely, you don't know what the fuck you're doing because why are you recording that shit? It's not worth being recorded. So that's why I believe that shit's not being recorded. If we have something going on in our bodies, right? We're less likely to see a doctor already because we're men. But if you had a homie, they could at least know something wrong with you. Like, man, what's wrong with you? And then, you could open up about, man, I got this weird lump or some shit, or like, man, some weird stuff going on. Then they'll put pressure on you. Then it'd be validated, like, okay, it's all right. Hey, I had one of those, or you could go see a doctor, like whatever, you got to do that. But if you don't, you keep that dialogue in your head, and now you're seeing physical shit happen. And now, now you think you're the only person going through this, and now you have no other outside perspective. Now you're living between your ears, and then you fuck. You literally fuck once you get to that point. And the worst thing I think we do is we put that emotional burden, right? Someone being a friend, the emotional labor of being a good friend. And women obviously know this, but men know this as well. Like when you are a good friend, not just like homies or like cool with people, if you're a good friend, there's an emotional labor that comes with it, right? That means you got to be there to support when shit's going bad. You got to be there to celebrate when shit's going good. You got to be there questioning when they make questionable decisions and shit right there, right? So in a couple surveys they do, 3 out of 4 respondents report that their person who they do that with, right? The person who helps provide that emotional assistance or labor are women. So they're getting this form of emotional therapy through their girlfriends or their wives and this and that because women, so now we got women doing twice the emotional labor because they're already doing it for themselves and doing it for their friends. You ever talk to a woman like, man, all my girlfriends are hitting me up at the same time and they all going through stuff. I just need some time for myself. It's like, that's the last time when you got I don't know how to communicate because I have no emotional intelligence, but I'm feeling something wrong with me. And so now you pissing them off. So now they start about the supernova. Like, come on, man. Like, you burning them out because you don't even know how to talk about your own feelings. Or if they talk to you about your feelings, you may not have the EQ to fucking reciprocate and understand that what it means to be a good friend. This is what I say about being a good friend. It's not about linking up. It's not about just being present. It's about doing the emotional labor of a good friendship. It's about cleaning the shit when it needs to be maintained. What's the word? Homekeeping, y'all. We need to become better homekeepers if we're going to become better men. This is just a fact. And so if we hit next, the solution is really simple. First off, we steal all their notes. You know what I'm saying? If they're obviously passing the test, steal their notes. I have a sister, I have coworkers, my girlfriend, they all have friendships that span the globe. I mean, I know people who are cool with each other, they never met in person, back to the Tumblr era. And they still talk every other week, every day. No, every day. They talk every day. Obviously they're not kicking it, but and then whenever the emotional labor looks like, when women, you ever notice how your girlfriend or a woman, when there's a crisis going on with someone in the group, they form a board meeting, you know what I'm saying? That shit is ran with emotional precision. I mean, they sit there, they unpack the problem, they diagnose the players, and then they reach across their network and get information. I ain't noticed that shit. Beyonce was telling people, women get information. Women get information. And so they compile the information. I saw him on the corner with this girl. Oh, he said he was out with his boys. He lying. I saw him out here. Yup, he was on Snapchat doing this and that. Yup, he out here lying. Yup, and he's doo-doo. He's boo-boo, man. Fuck him. Look at the girl he was cheating on you with, man. All right. He's pop. Girl, go ahead, get dressed. Fuck him. We about to go get you a man. And with the precision, the emotional labor just comes together. And before you know it, you out here listening to, saying Jaheim, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to treat that woman, put that woman first, man. So that's what I'm talking about. And when men go through breakups, what they do, man, you be sad as fuck. And your boys be there, oh man, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, I'm there for you. But it seldom hit that level because we've unlearned that shit. We don't know how to grieve that shit. So depending on who breaks up with who, obviously if you get dumped, you're going to feel worse. So if a man gets dumped, they say it takes him longer to get through that shit if he gets dumped versus if a woman gets dumped. Obviously that's situational. We all been through, people process shit differently. But, if you're by yourself, you're lonely. Now you're really alone because the one person who did that emotional labor, if that dumped you, so now you feel down about your self-confidence, and you and your boys never even talking about the basic shit, you know what I'm saying? Y'all talk about sports or whatever, but you ain't talking about sadness, nigga. So now you listen to Drake and now you sad. So this is what I'm talking about. We gotta copy women and we gotta call our homies to not just talk shit, right? You just gotta talk, right? Me and Tyler, we talk and we should live with each other, but we run podcasts on each other, man. We talk, man, it's a freaking podcast, hour long at least. Both of our women, girlfriends, they tell us, get off the phone. So it be on that. But we also talk about real shit. We counsel each other, we check each other, we make sure each other living right, doing all that stuff. then you check up on, like, a part of those conversations isn't just like I said, you got to go with that deeper layer. You got to make sure, they doing okay. Ask about their health, their mental health, their physical, if they family all right, if they stressing, you know what I'm saying? Are they dealing, depression? Are you sad? Because you keep that shit locked up, man, it gets to a point you can't contain it. So the closing word, recognize that everyone has a life, like a solar system has a star. Every life has a solar system. Every solar system has a star. And each solar system has its own problem. It has its own asteroid belts. It got its own, different gaseous planets. It's got its own things in space it's got to deal with. And every 100 years or so, the stars might align in that you feel a connection to another star because, hell, that's just how a dead clock is right 2 times a day. But you've been taught that you need independence, but now that independence is really isolation because you so bent on getting your space, not knowing that space is the most abundant cold in the world. And space does not matter as much as matter matters. That's why it's so precious, so hard to come by. So yes, when we were all shoulder to shoulder, we were in each other's orbits of influence and we tugged and we felt each other and we all had a positive effect. But gravity is too weak and unreliable of a force to keep the important work of homekeeping and emotional labor on just gravity, on just the fact that, like, man, the only reason I'll only be there if I'm physically there for you. Like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. So each one of us is a star and we have a specific coordinate in our life. We have just enough heat for our solar system. That is our joint. That is our point. But together, the homies make a coordination of people. And so you look at these coordinations, you become less of the lonely star, and now you become the connected constellation. And it's because of distance, not, in spite of distance, because you guys are so far apart, you are allowed to become a celestial map. And you can offer guidance in the same ways that the ancient constellations help the ancient mariners, help the pyramid builders. It can help each one of us on our journey to become better men. Fellas, do not play with your homekeeping. Take care of what's home and you'll take care of what's important. Becoming a better man. Our series on home continues next week. What I told you, there's 2 messages I give a fuck about. The next one is how do we create our own fate on our journey for creative self-fulfillment? Well, we do that by creating our own fate. I know I just said that twice. But in relation to home, I want to know, and you can interact with me via the link in the show description. You can send a voice memo. Do you feel limited or locked into your circumstances because of where you live? Do you believe your area code is playing a major factor into how far you can get in your creative pursuits? Like, do you feel like you have to find a different home to go ahead and put a positive impact? Let me know your thoughts. Because I have a unique position on that, and I'm not just pie in the sky. Like, I'm really thinking this shit through. So tune into that next episode as I provide the antidote for your thinking. Please spread the word. I'm giving y'all content, ways to share, comment, subscribe. Spread the word, man. If you know people who don't listen to podcasts, like, let them know that this ain't like your other podcasts, right? And that podcast you can listen to when you're doing chores, when you're waiting and commuting. You can play the shit, you can pause it. Like, people think podcasts, you gotta finish it all in one go. Like, you can pause the podcast, do some shit, come back, pick up where you leave off. Visit my website at wordofmouth.com. Please send my website some traffic. Please, just go ahead, get at a lookout. And share as much as you can see. Let everyone know we'll be cooking. And I will be having some of these lessons and these slides. I think I'm gonna have the slides, but definitely I'm gonna have write-ups of, some of the messages and summary on my website, where you can subscribe to newsletters if you want to go that route. But please, man, watch the show, subscribe to everything. This has been the spoken word with Ed Word of Mouth. Thank you all for tuning in.